to arrange this interactive discussion. With our colleagues from the Confederation of Indian Industry, we agreed that the discussions will be free-flowing, so to speak. We have many people who are willing to speak, who would like to voice their opinions, and we would ask in turn representatives from the Russian and the Indian side to say a few words.
See, one of the persons who has really been a great driver from the CII point of view in building this relationship and encouraging us to come here and constantly be at it is our ambassador, Mr. Prabhat Shukla. He speaks Russian fluently, and so I'm amazed sometimes to hear him. And he says this is like my mother tongue. So I like him to give a perspective, because he interacts with a lot of people who and his deep interest in our partnership. So give him some insight into what we could do.
Thank you, Mr. Bhartia. I go further than just saying that Russian is my mother tongue. I say Russia is my second home. I first came here in 1977, and I've spent about 10 years in Russia, and I must say it's been a wonderful experience for me every time I've lived here, and this time is no exception. But I must also say that I have a sense here that we don't want too much of the official point of view. I have certainly come here to hear what the business has to say, what Indian businessmen have to say, what the Russian businessmen have to say. And so I'm going to be very, very brief. I'll just say that we already have a number of interfaces between the two business communities. The forum has already been referred to. There is also recently established the CEO's Council. And now there is this new initiative which reflects not just the starting point of a new interface. And many thanks to the organizers of the SPIEF, many thanks to Minister Nabiullina and all her colleagues, especially Deputy Prime Minister Sobyanin, for the interest they have taken in driving this. But frankly, this is meant really to enable the closer interaction between the two businesses. And I would say that from this point onwards, just to show you that I can speak Russian indeed, Jela za biznesem teper. The other point that I would...
it's up to the business to take us forward.
Infrastructure. I think, for example, our banking links. I'm surprised to see that in our trade between India and Russia, letters of credit are hardly ever used. And, you know, the way the financial system is evolving around the world, it would be very useful, I think, for the two countries to address this issue and see if we can't find a way in order to solve this problem. There are a couple of other issues which I would like to flag, but I'll stop here because really I want to give business a chance. I want this more and more to be a B2B interaction. But before I close, I will just say this, that I have driven CII, but I've driven CII because I know that they can do what we want to see happen between India and Russia. To my Russian business friends, I want to say, you will not find a better partner than CII. So make the most of this opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your comments. I think we'll live up to your expectations.
All right. Good.
And maybe Shekhar, you'd like to make a few comments on.
Thank you, Mr. President and leader of our delegation. It was very nice to hear all the nice things about how India and Russia are doing business and how business has grown over the years. But I think since I don't hold the position of President of CII any longer, I can be a bit more blunt because it's a business to business. And as the Chairman has said, that this can be a free and frank sharing of views and opinion on the two sides. So I will give you the Indian perspective side of the Indian perspective of the views that we hold about how to do business in Russia and what are the difficulties. But I would encourage the Russian side also to come out openly, so that whilst the ambassador is sitting here, he can also absorb the difficulties the Russian side is facing. Let me start by saying this. It's all very well to say that the investments have grown. The fact of the matter is, bulk of the business today, only 1% of Russia's imports from India is 1% of Russia's imports, exports are to India, and only 0.5% of imports into Russia from India. That's a very poor show. Now, reason is, of course, both the Indian business and the Russian business don't know each other well enough. We've had a number of meetings, we've had government-to-government discussions, government-to-government fora, where all kinds of discussions like we're doing today take place, and after the event we just walk out of the door and forget it all, and each one goes his own way. I think there is now a time to say that if we really want to build a long, sustainable economic model for India-Russia business to grow, like the chairman of this committee has said, that there is a surplus 50 billion between China, there is no reason why India, being an economy which is growing at 8.5% or average of 8% of the last 5 years, should not be a very strong, sustainable partner for Russia. Russia's business doesn't have to depend on only defense units which keep on selling to India or buying. India keeps on buying. There are strategic reasons why India and Russia are close in terms of defense equipment. But and I don't want to go into detail, but that's a matter of politics, and I don't want to get into geopolitics here. Basically, we in the business sector have found enormous difficulties in Russia because we don't feel safe here. When I say safe, I don't mean from security point of view. We feel that we don't know enough of the opportunities that business exists in Russia. And likewise, I'm sure Russia does not know enough of what can be done in India. So I think what we need to do is to build a connectivity. And that connectivity is people to people. Connectivity is business to business. Connectivity is goods transportation from A to B at the shortest possible, at the least cost. Connectivity in regard to air transport, connectivity in terms of tourism. All this can only happen if the private sector and the public sector get together and not depend only on the government, be it the Indian side or be it the Russian side, to build a strategic partnership between the two countries. So I implore on the Russian side to tell us what we need to do from the Indian side to make you come to India, because your investment in India is minuscule. It's only 0.35% of the total FDI that comes into India is from Russia. I mean, for a country like Russia with such huge resources in the energy sector particularly, it would not be fair to compare a country like Russia's investment into India, which is growing at 8.5% in terms of GDP terms. So therefore, what I'm trying to suggest to you, that maybe it's time that we build a time-bound task force concept between public and private sector together. That means the government of Russia's few people who are involved in the economic and trade development in India and Russia, and the private sector of Russia. Similarly, in the Indian side, the government representatives and the Indian private sector representatives could form together a task force delineating the area of connectivity, responsibility with time-bound schedule, so that both of us benefit in the long run for helping each other. In that way, I agree with everything that our President has said, that so many areas, whether it's technology, R&D, small scale, skill development, all that can be addressed if only we build connectivity. And I implore on you to please push from your side how connectivity can be enhanced. To give you a small example, visas for business people take a heck of a long time. Therefore, the Indians don't want to come here for business. They can go to America, they can go to Europe, and they have no problem about multi-entry. Here, you have to get a specific company to invite you, and that for so many days, enter from one particular airport and get out of that airport on a particular day. Now, business doesn't happen that way. You know that as well as anybody else. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to, since you said that it should be a free and fair discussion, I thought I'll just lay these points on the table. There are plenty more, but I'm sure my other colleagues will take on further from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, Mr. Datta. You have made very fair statements. Indeed, there is a strong deficit in communication. There is lack of information despite presence of the mass media and their efforts, despite availability of internet. On our side, in the Business Council, we have prepared a program for putting together a website which would contribute to improvement of communication between Russian and Indian business communities. We started sending out information newsletters. We will try to fill out those information gaps. I want to also remind you of the fact that shortly we are going to have a fourth Russian-Indian Forum on Trade and Investment. This will happen in fall of this year. All of the ideas that we are going to discuss here should be included in the agenda of that forum. We will take our notes and pass them to the Ministry of Economic Development, to the Intergovernmental Commission. We will put together a set of recommendations for the coming event. As Mr. Ambassador said, there is a problem which has been raised more than once at the highest level. That is improvement of travel conditions. We are going to put forth a new initiative. Actually, we started working in this direction. We want to give an opportunity to CI, to the Biz Council, to the CEO Council members to enjoy more favorable conditions for getting multiple entry visas. We understand the big problems which are out there between our ministries. We also want to facilitate this business communication process as much as we can. It's been rightly stated that Russian exports to India are mostly in the field of MiG and Sukhoi and other military vendors. For us, it's very important to stay up to date with telecommunications, with high technologies, nanotechnologies, pharmaceutical technologies. Those are the areas where India has made a huge success. On our side, we have visited many parts of India. We have seen the technology parks that have been built there, and it's just amazing what has been accomplished. Now, let me give the floor to one of the few people who represents a Russian civilian brand. I'm talking about MTS company.